we were just talking about is like we have oh, come on. It's been happening all day. What we were just talking about was that we are starting a podcast today, and we're happy to feature MSPs. And the idea is that you could use the podcast to reach out to your people and, use it to say, hey, we were just on Humanize IT's podcast, and it's more of a high level approach to, how do we treat each other in a way that improves business and not just talk about technology. Yep. And so the kind of the storyboard right now is, whoever's going to be on. So let's say Mike, you wanted to join the next podcast. You get to pick the topic that you feel passionately about, but you also have to tell a fail story, like
horror story.
Horror stories.
We want to crash and burn.
And what I love is you get a bunch of IT guys around the table, and we all have these horror stories. And the older you are, I feel like the better the stories become, because you go back to the days around token ring networks. Like, remember when we had that magic spoon that held the clamps in place and it reset the whole network? Or remember when we found that dead rat that killed our line?
I do.
Why do you say that?
And it's just like like I have some pretty epic stories. So I was sitting around listening to these younger guys talk about their like horror stories about causing cascading failures and stuff. And then I started telling my stories, and they all kind of shut up and started listening. I'm like, are you serious? Like, yeah. So back in the day, we didn't have lock plugs, right? And I was working behind a server, and I shut down the whole network because, well, clumsy me.
Yep.
Been there.
My boss came in and goes, "What did you do?" I'm like, oh no. Why aren't there any lock plugs in here? Why is this rack on wheels? Or finding that mystery server in a closet. Oh my gosh. I got some great ones. Like we found an old compact server. You guys remember like those mini fridge servers? Like they were like this wide and about this tall, and they were on wheels.
Yep.
We found one of those in a closet that was an old server room from like the late 90s. And it turned out, like, the reason we found the server was we didn't know it was on. We thought it was one of those things you shoved in the corner with your US robotics modems. And we walk over there because we're trying to find this server, this IP. And this IP is running an entire financial database for this division. And it's really important. And it turns out it was running DB4. And this is the only place it was. So we were trying to figure out how to get it migrated up to a VM. And this is like 2009. It was just like, this help desk tech comes to me and just goes, all right, Adam, what do we do here? I'm like, I have no clue. Like, I don't even know if you can run DOS on a VM. And so we, did some inception, like running DOSBox on a Windows machine, on a VM that was severely crippled, just so we could get this thing to run. So we all have horror stories. So that's kind of the Humanize ITs. We want our clients to feel like, hey, we've had some good days. We are humans too. We're just trying to get by. And so the podcast is going to center around talking to MSPs, and Skip and I talking about just either the good old days or talking about best practices and like how to talk to actual people rather than talking just to nerds. It should be pretty entertaining if nothing else.
Cool.
All right. So today we can actually start here since we're 10 minutes after. If anybody comes in, they can just be in the waiting room. You guys came first, so you guys get to be up front. So the main topic today is we offered a couple master classes this last month. Did you guys go to either one? I think Mike, you were at one, weren't you?
Yes.
And then
I did not. No.
Spencer, you slacked off.
Yes.
You're supposed to send someone, Spencer. That way you could, you didn't have to do it
delegate
yourself.
that crap.
I know. I'm working on that. Yeah.
You signed that someone.
So my goal was for mine, and I don't know about Skip, but the goal for mine was to like at the end have like a working product of something. And the one thing I've been with the coaching clients that I've been number one asked about is like, how do I just do a quick QBR? And so that was the classes we had last quarter, and I had a really good attendance as long as I reminded people it was coming up. Like I'd have no one registered, and then like 2 minutes before, all of a sudden I would have like 5 registrants. I'm like, okay, no big deal. So which one are you in? Are you in the most recent one, Mike, or are you on the first one?
Yeah, Tuesday.
Okay. Yeah. So my goal is either do I offer more of those, of that style, where we're going to take one report like the TSA and just do a quick win, or a Office 365 and just do a quick win. Like, hey, this will sell Teams to all of your clients, and at the end having a report that will just sell this like a one-shot deal? Or should we focus more on like skill building, like a SWOT workshop, a 1-hour SWOT workshop, how to run a SWOT session with your clients? So I'm wanting feedback.
I think both of those have merit. You know, having that quick hit, hey, this is how to go through the tech stack audit. This is how to develop a SWOT. You know, they're two convergent things, but they both have a strong purpose in building up that relationship with the client. And that's really what it's all about, is how do you get to be that subject matter expert, that trusted advisor, when you've got the right tools in your toolbox, whether it's from the personal side and that interaction side versus, hey, just going down a checklist and sending out some stuff to a client saying, hey, this is where you're at. I think both have definite merit.
That's a good point, Mike. And, you know, these, and Ed and I are building this out more together, but, you know, they definitely need to all come together. We're really excited what Managed Service Platform has done as far as the feature set, because it allows us to do what we've been wanting to do all along, and is that, you know, kind of divide these things up. They're critical components. They need to fit where they should fit, but we percolate this all up to bigger dashboards. And so I'm excited about a lot of things that we've got in the works right now. You know, we're wrapping it around the humanized IT, but practically speaking as well, I think we'll be able to help you guys create engagements and you know, conduct engagements that are really very targeted when they need to be, and very broad when they need to be, because that is a real challenge that I hear a lot of people are going on, that they get something together, but it's too targeted. So they come around on an annual cycle, and now they need to think big, to talk big, you know, and get that big picture, and the tools aren't there. And so it creates a lot of insecurity on those. So, you know, my constant message to everyone is the reports aren't the engagements. The engagements are important, and we use the reports. So, you know, we'll just keep helping you guys build that out. And it's a working process. I really, really do understand that. So.
I don't know if I told you this story yet, Skip, but my current like thought is, with the cold weather and the lack of sun and seasonal affective disorder and all that other jazz, I'm like, tell you what, if you live in a Southern Hemisphere country, I will fly out and I will do your QBRs for you. So you can see that I don't need a laptop. I don't do anything. I walk in with my marker and I sell the crap out of things. And I don't sell it on purpose. I just talk to them. And at the end of the day, people are like, why aren't we doing that? Like, I don't know. And, you know, and again, I think that we talked about that a little bit last week. It's like, you have teenagers, you're ready to get out of the house all the time. Versus, you know, me, I've still got some cute kids at home. They're all cute.
But
anyways,
20s and they boomerang.
What?
Wait till they're in their 20s and they boomerang. You just
I'm okay with that. I'll put them to work.
They keep coming back.
I'll put them to work. I need that free labor. Training them now, you know. Got most of them so they can cook. So, you know, at least every one of them can cook one meal. So, you know, sessions wise, so what I'm hearing is, you know, like, you like the skill building as well as the practical application ones. So for me, like, should I offer just one a month of skill, one a month of practical application, or should I just offer like every other week? Because I try to do like a morning and an afternoon, so we hit the international people as well as the local people. So I do at least 2. But I'm willing to do more if people find value in it. My thing is, I don't want to be like a conference where, hey, look, we have our token speaker on security. You go to the meeting and it's the same conversation you've heard 100 times. So what I want is like, hey, people are looking forward to do this. Like, what are things that you want to learn about? And if it's that strategic engagement where you can send some of your staff members to it. Remember, in the VEP, you can send anybody in your company to one of these meetings. It's not just you. So if you got like an up-and-coming engineer who you think could possibly be better at account management, or maybe he needs to learn some of these skills, send them to the meeting. We'll put them in. As long as you're one. For me, it's 5. I don't let like more than 5 people in my sessions. So this last month, I had a line on the last session. So I'm thinking about offering up that one again, just for the sake of the people who couldn't make it. But ideas from you guys? Anybody have anything they feel strongly like, if you could just show me this one thing that I would love to be there?
For the group that I'm trying to get involved using managed service platform to deliver these conversations, I think we just haven't gotten over that roadblock of, it's okay to use this other template that's not yours, that you've built forever, that's customized specific for this one client. Just let this help guide the conversation, and just talk like you normally talk, but use this to help guide you through it. And we're stuck. I just can't get them to do it. So I think that, that working meeting kind of concept, like you said, where you just, this is how you use the words in the managed service platform template to have a conversation. I think they're intimidated for some reason.
Right. Yeah, and some of the things that we can do now, if Spencer, if you got a legacy template out there, there is opportunity now in the platform to kind of bring some of that data forward into a new one. So we got a little bit more of a migration path there.
Legacy template is like a Word document.
Okay. Well, even those.
Oh, that's what you're talking about. They're not using managed services platform. They're just like, hey, I got my document, I got my way, and I know I do this thing.
Yeah.
Oh, old dog and tricks.
And it takes 8 hours to prep and refine and deliver and then do something with the information afterwards, versus just like you were saying, just sit down and just use the tool and just have the meeting. You don't have to go beyond that. That's the value, is the meeting. And so I'm trying to get them to adopt some of that stuff. So.
Well, and if you got 2 or 3 people, you want to go through that, just send me an email and it's an hour-long session to go through that QBR one. Just like, here's the down and dirty, strip everything out and just do these things and you'll be fine.
Okay.
So, I'm always happy to do a one-off. Like, anybody who wants to meet like as a one-off, like, you just have to look at my calendar. It's not like coaching. Coaching, you get dedicated time. I will meet with you every week at the same time and you can plan it out and we work through an agenda. Versus the VEP, it's like, whenever you have time, like, we can meet. So if you want to like talk through a QBR with your team, reach out to Skip or I. We're happy to do it. It's as long as you can find time on our calendar.
Okay. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. It's part of the program. Like, what the tools in the program are nice. The tools in the program will help you. Like, I originally did Word documents. I originally did spreadsheets, and it is not scalable. It is a pain in the ass. And that's what turned me on to managed services platform. So I took my Word documents and my Excel spreadsheets and I converted them into the platform and I started kicking ass. And then all of a sudden, Danish was like, I love your templates. Do you want more people to use us? And like, I have no problem, because my goal is to change the way IT is done. And so I want more people to use my stuff because I want them to succeed, because I am tired of the old school IT of, I have my Word document, I have my checklist, and then I'm going to leave. So to that end, like, one of the other workshops, and Skip's going to laugh at me on this one, is that I've thought about like having like Whiskey Fridays. 3 o'clock on on Friday, we're going to do a workshop where we talk about what's not going well. and just kind of like working through like the problems. So having your beer or whiskey, and we're just gonna sit down and bitch for an hour. But like working through as a group, like, okay, what's not working? Like, hey, I can't get my employees to stop using Word documents. I can't get my clients to sign up for QBRs, and we work on that topic. So
I could find time for that.
There we go.
you know, because again, it's all in the theme of the humanized IT. You know, like, look, we all are just trying our best, and you know what I like to show people is like my wife. Like everybody else thinks they have it together, but we're all just in the same shitstorm. We're all just trying our best to get this stuff done, and some of us have lessons learned that other people don't. Some people have great concepts and things that are working for them, and the more we share, the more we work together, the better we can do this. And like, if you're ever at a conference, the best conversations you have with people, the ones that you remember, is when you were at that happy hour after the conference and you were talking to people. Like, well, how are you dealing with this particular issue with your clients? Like, well, here's what we did. And they'll give you this thing that one of their engineers made up. And like, that's a really good idea. I did not think of that. And they go forth and they do it. Like half the great things in like the strategic guide came because we were sitting around in a coaching session or just hammering out one day, and we thought, that's a kick-ass idea. The Humanized IT logo simply came from a brainstorming session. We were just sitting around with our marketing department, like, well, why don't you just do this? And I'm like, that's a really good idea. And we do it. So I guess my rant went on a little long there.
That's all right. So guys, so let me follow up before Adam's rant and prod you guys a little bit on some topics and stuff, because, you know, I'm hearing a couple of things, and, you know, we hear this pretty often from coaching clients, is getting these conversations going, you know, getting the business drive and focus. So, you know, I'm not sure who put it out there, whether it was, you know, some sort of peer group, an Ingram thing or whatever, but, you know, it got to be really popular. What was it? 15 years ago, I guess, was you'd ask the question, you get with a C-level person at a company, and you'd ask them, what keeps you up at night? You know, what are you worried about in your business? And so it's a good leading question, but, you know, I've been on enough sales calls now with sales guys to know that it's just one of these things that they ask. I don't know. They don't even know why they're asking it. They're just asking it and listening for some random answer, and then they're going to talk about whatever they want to anyway, right? But so I'm trying to shift that, you know, and take that idea of, hey, let's train our people to ask some probing questions. And so I'm curious what probing questions you guys lead off with to get those conversations rolling with your clients. Anybody have a standard one that you run with? All right, I'll throw mine out there. So see if I prime the pumper a little bit. So I asked a twofold question. And, you know, this one is really, it has to be with the right audience. So that's always, you know, key in any of the engagement prep that you hear me talk about, is they're having the right conversations with the right people. All right. So I start out with, and I aim for the fence with this one. I've gotten some pushback, but I don't know. I'll deal with the pushback. I asked them, what's the number one way your company makes money? I mean, just flat out, let's go to the top end of it. You know, how does your organization make money? And to be honest, there's a few people that are so constrictive that they don't want to answer that question. In my mind, I'm like, I may not even want to work with those people anyway, but I'll deal with those later. Everyone else, it usually kicks off a pretty good conversation. And then somewhere along the way, I ask, what's the number one risk to that revenue? You know, what do you see that, you know, could cause that to take a 20-point, you know, 50-point drop or something? And from those, just asking those two questions with our clients, it gives a tremendous amount of insight and direction into how we need to manage their technology. You know, in and of itself, it can kick off a lot of projects, but, you know, it helps focus our conversation. So That's my quick down and dirty questions to ask. Anybody else have any of those out there that they use regularly?
One that we've used in the past is to ask the client, if there was one business problem that you'd like us to find a solution for, what would it be? What is that one that really stands out?
I like that.
Yeah.
We try to keep it solution oriented and focus on that rather than, hey, we've got a box to sell you that's going to do this. We let them be part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
I have an icebreaker question I tell people when I first become a VCIO for them is, what are your top 3 issues? If you could make them go away right now, and I don't ask that just to the leadership team, I do that in my key stakeholder interviews. Mm-hmm. So in your key stakeholder interview, you're talking to Joe on the front line saying, hey, what are the top 3 things that just keep you from doing your job well? And, sometimes they'll mention printers, sometimes they'll mention the computer is broken, or they'll mention that they really hate filling out timesheets. And I mark those down. And as I'm doing stakeholder interviews, I walk in the office and I'm doing these little questions. It's neat to see the trend. And then you come back to the leadership team and say, I know you guys said that the internet was the biggest problem, but I talked to 10 people and here's what they said. Not being able to print on a regular basis. And then 5 of them had computers that took 20 minutes to turn on in the morning. And they're like, oh, I'm like, well, I mean, you guys get to set the priority, but what are the top things that we can do to make your life better? So that's why I like that idea. What's the one business problem we could solve?
Yeah.
In my marriage, Andrea, my wife, has a statement. She says, like, what can I do for you today to make your day better? And so, it's like, you know what? That bill just needs to get paid. And I keep forgetting to call it in and blah, blah, blah. If you could take care of that, that would just make my life a lot easier. And those little things like that, where you're taking something big off of somebody's plate that maybe you didn't know about. Like maybe you're kicking ass every day, but people are really annoyed with that one thing, or they have this one major issue they wish would just go away. And you could solve that in half a second. So I like that.
Funny. Yeah, you're right. A lot of things, it generates the thought process to say, okay, what's really the area that we have to focus on the most that's causing the most headaches? And so many times it's something very, very simple.
Yeah. Like it could be that this person really hates their mouse and they just despise it. It's a thorn in their side every day. It's like, you know what? Throw it in the trash. Let me go get you a new one. And you get that C-level who just like, they've been living with the mouse because you know what? They can live with pain. They're not going to complain about this stupid little thing. And I walk in there with a new mouse that works for them. And it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize how bad it was. That's an actual story I have because the guy, I was walking by his office and I hear this wham, 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 wham. He's trying to click on his mouse. I'm like, what's going on, man? It's like, oh, this mouse, it just doesn't work that well. I'm like, that doesn't look like it's working at all. Is that cathartic? And he's just like, well, it kind of is. Like, do you want me to just go get you a quick one? I can be back in 5 minutes. And he's like, sure. And then, that kicked off a good relationship between me and that C-level. Because I was just a lowly tech at the time. And, now he knew, like, he could talk to me about things. And he was also the same C-level that used his recycle bin on his Outlook for sorting email. So when I ran my cleanup script, I got in trouble. That's where he put his important email. You said delete, it goes to this magic folder.
There you go. Get to it later.
God.
I have that client.
We all do. That's the beauty of the Humanized IT podcast, is that we all have these people. We've been there. We've done our dumb mistakes.
Emptied his trash of like 6,000 messages. And the call was, Mike, can you recover these?
Yeah.
Living on the edge.
So what Adam talked about there was, even when he was just a tech, and working within an organization, there was a relationship built. And I think we have the opportunity as MSPs to build business to business relationships. So when our organizations have regular ongoing conversations, like with the key stakeholders that Adam was talking about, those are critical, I think, very underrated, perhaps underutilized engagements with our clients. FYI, I can go on a long time about key stakeholders, right? But so we have these key stakeholder interviews with clients, and we gather all this data, and we come back to the executive group and we say, look, this is what your clients are seeing. This is what's happening. And when we do that, all of a sudden we're not just the IT resource, we're elevating the relationship we have with clients, and all of a sudden they're seeing us more as solutions focused, strategic focused, even business focused. And that's what's going to provide the long-term stability in our clients and get a lot more revenue from them as well.
You bring up a good point there, Skip.
I got a story that I want to tell, though, so don't let me forget. I want to tell my story.
So let me tell you.
So I had a SWOT analysis with a client, and it was a fantastic SWOT analysis. And one of the things that was so great about it was that this company had a very senior in age-wise, a senior executive team. They'd all been working there for decades, right? Many decades for some of them. And I had guys who were sitting across the conference room table, VPs of different areas of that business. And through the SWOT exercise that I ran, these two guys learned about their peers' business solutions that they didn't know existed. They literally sat there and says, I've been working here for 30 years and I didn't know you guys could do that, talking to his peer across the table. All right. So, just the value of that meeting by me associating, standing up there with my white erase or my whiteboard marker, I'm kind of the guy in all that, but I didn't really do anything. I just got these guys talking, but by virtue of nurturing that relationship and that building, the company itself was better, and we got some value out of that. So these relationships and building those is a really, really important aspect. And I think it's kind of it looks like our general theme today, but I think we need to plan how we're going to do those, because while it might sound great, and if we just go, I'll do it whenever, we all know from our own personal experience, it's never going to happen. So if we're going to have a strategic engagement, if we're going to have a focused conversation, all right, we've got to plan it out. We've got to map it out. We got to manage it, scale it, repeat it. So however we can help you guys out to do that, we definitely want to do that. Okay.
Yeah. And what I was going to say is the thing is I'm guessing everybody on this call has some kind of client heartbeat survey, right?
Haven't done it in a while.
You haven't done it in a while. Now, what happens when you send out an electronic survey? What's the response rate on those?
10%, 15%.
Wow, that high, huh?
We get about 6% on ours, but we send them for pretty much every ticket.
Every ticket, yeah.
So the thing is, we all acknowledge that these responses and getting that feedback is important, but we've turned it into this sterile thing. Mm-hmm. And so people are inundated with Survey Monkeys. And you know what? I see them like, get the thing out of my way, like get it out of my inbox. Mm-hmm. In fact, on my phone, I've got junk surveys coming in all the time, because every once in a while I am nice and I respond to a political survey because, hey, you know what? This person's, in college, they're trying to learn how to give back and serve the DNC or RNC, and I'm gonna give them the time and fill out their survey. But then all of a sudden I get on this list and I get all these surveys, and I've just decided no more. However, somebody comes up to me on the street with the clipboard in hand and says, hey, can you sign, and so we can have this petition for a bill? And I say, you know what, let's talk about that. I'll take a few minutes and talk to that person, because they took time out of their day to ask me what I thought. Now, I may be 100% against the legislation they're trying to push, but I will engage them and say, you know what, I support that being discussed within the legislature. Now we're a unicam, so we're a little different in Nebraska, but so you get something up and it gets discussed. And so I try to encourage that. But with our customers, the long story here is, with our customers, those key stakeholder interviews, doing them in person, you'll get 100% response. You know, next time you're on site, be like, hey, how are we doing? Just mark it down right there. In fact, in MSPL, you can do slider bars on a report. They're really useful. Have 5 questions for your tech to ask while they're on site, and have them ask like another one, like, hey, just want to know how I'm doing. How can I be better? Is there anything, what's your number one issue right now? And so like that feeds into another project. And so when you ask in person, it's a lot better. Now, I get it. It's not streamlined. It's not the checkbox you get from the task list. It's easy for us to do a checkbox, and it's easy for us to send out a survey, but we're spending less time sending that survey out than we're asking our clients to spend on responding. Versus once a year during your QBR, say, do a health check. So test the room. Like, hey, after my QBR, I'm going to spend 30 minutes walking around the office, just asking a few people like, hey, what's your biggest issue? What's the one thing we can solve for you this year? And write that down and put it on my executive summary. Like, we did our 30-minute walk around, and we found out that the number one issue amongst clients was that Bob's office smells funny. You know, or the number 2 issue is that we haven't had a monitor refresh in like years, and I'm still working on CRTs.
Mm-hmm.
Simple problems to fix that we can help out with. And for some reason, as IT people, we've been sold a bill of goods by a bunch of vendors that say, hey, use our product and you can get all this feedback, or use our product because you're supposed to do these things, rather than spending time just conversing with the end user. And a lot of that's because we're really busy. I mean, who here on this call like is not busy? So we try to find ways to make our time more efficient. But what if your time could be more efficient by talking and extracting out what's important to your clients? So that's the sad part. We already know this is important. We're just executing it so poorly, and I'm really bad at this as well. I am virtual. So like, Skip, you're what, 1,500 miles south of me?
Probably 1,000, yeah.
Is it about 1,000 miles south of me? Danish is about 1,000 miles north of me. Miles is probably about 1,500 miles northeast of me. Like, I've got people in Australia, South Africa, UK, all over the United States. I'm isolated. I sit at my desk all day. It's easy for me to avoid people. And so I have to be deliberate about it. It drives my kids crazy because I come home and that's the first physical human interaction I have had in like 12 hours. Versus you guys are probably like, man, that's the dream. I could be in an office by myself all day. Oh. But getting out there and talking face to face, like, you know, even hiring an intern, hire an intern once a year for 12 weeks, pay them their peanuts and say, I want you to go to each one of my clients and ask them the 6 questions. Suddenly you have insight into what's the one issue that our company can solve for you. What's the one thing we can do better? Maybe we need to buy more donuts, whatever it is. When I worked in the IT world, the last person you wanted to talk to was a cybersecurity manager. Just the 2 people you don't want to see in the room when you walk into a meeting: cybersecurity manager and HR. Mm-hmm. And we hung out a lot together. And so I made it a purpose of mine that, like, I worked at a company where I did not have a flexible budget. So I personally, out of my back pocket, would buy a box of 24 donuts from my favorite donut shop, and I would walk to a department and set it down and spend about an hour talking to just various people on that floor. And I learned more about cybersecurity and how the best to apply it to their department than anything else I did. And I ran, like $2,000 events for the company to come in and talk about cybersecurity. Those donuts I bought made me more efficient and a better cybersecurity manager than anything else I did all year long. And I did that every week for 3 years. It just became my Friday morning ritual. And people loved it when they saw me on Friday morning, because they knew that if Adam was at your floor on Friday morning, that you were getting some Lamar's donuts. And then people started approaching me afterwards and asking me like, hey, Adam, what's with that new policy that got pushed out? Like, well, that's in response to SIP policy XXX. However, is there a way I can make it better for you? I'm like, yeah, it's really annoying. It's really causing us problems. They started proactively coming to me because I had built the relationship, all because of a $20 box of donuts. So I encourage you guys to do the same thing. So maybe that should be one of our workshops, Skip.
Yeah, the relation building, because it's a different beast. We think about it, and we've got, I'm looking at the guys on the call today, and so I've worked with all of you guys before, and I'm pretty sure that you guys can go out and manage this with your clients. All right, the real challenge comes in, can you scale that? All right, can you bring someone else on board? Some of you already have this, challenge already, but how can you scale and grow that? How can you step out and do something else within your organization and know that this relationship management is still going to keep going on? So what we have to do is we have to teach not relationship skills for people, but we have to teach relationship skills for business. All right. And I don't want to overstate this or make it sound too grandiose, but at the end of the day, it becomes just a matter of planning and managing it. We need to provide some tools for our staff to do this. We need to set expectations. All right. And if we're going to set the expectations, then let's provide the tools to meet the expectations. But it's a pretty specific and fairly easy process we can go through. But yes, we can develop a way so that your organization has a relationship with your clients, just like the individual IT, like Adam's been talking about. I've got an example. I worked for an oil and gas company, and, I had a process that I went to as well. And it was the same thing. At the end of the day, I had all these area field managers that are always hitting me up. I'm the telecom guy, right? All my stuff is, the Cisco gear in the closet, but they're coming to me about their applications and their workstations and their, everything. And I'm like, well, I know where to go to fix that for you, So I developed a relationship, and it paid off. If your companies will develop the relationship, it'll pay off just the same for you guys. So yeah, I think this is a good path that we can run down a little bit further.
Yeah, so I'll try to build some workshops around those, you guys, and I'll try to publish them here early next week. The only other thing I have to show I was going to hit up today was something really quick. This is your tip that I really want to show people, like what I've been covering in those strategic QBRs. There's a specific key component, a methodology that will make a difference for making you more efficient. Now, those of you guys who went through the strategic QBR process, you have a report that looks like this now. However, what you guys need to know for your own internal processes is that report compare tool, there's a dot you need to connect there. So in this particular situation on the tool, note that we run a technology stack audit, an Office 365 audit, a NIST cybersecurity audit, disaster recovery audit. These were all run by various teams within the company. So this is my example company. All four of these were done without client interaction. They just kind of magically appear. Mm-hmm. You're coming in for your QBR, and magically in the pipeline, you see with the report compare tool how they scored. And this becomes an abstracted conversation you have now, because they're like, hey, you scored pretty well. I mean, you're in the 50s on DR and cybersecurity, but you're a coffee shop, so we're not too worried about that stuff. Your use of Office 365 is abysmal, though. You're paying for a bunch of stuff. The recommendations that came out were 66%. So now you can talk about, like, hey, what came of these audits? So a little bit of that, what's the fancy graph tool, everybody, BrightGauge. A little bit of a BrightGauge feel here, like to you as a account manager or as a VCIO, these things are automatically populating because some team has run an audit for you. Maybe it's part of your standard checklist every year that you run: a software audit, a hardware audit, a security audit, and a service audit. And then over here, they just populate. And then now you can just spend time talking to your customer about how you can serve them better, rather than explaining to them the details of the, I don't know, let's go to the technical stack audit. You could spend half an hour to an entire hour explaining the details of all of this report and each of these sections, or you can use a report compare tool to strip out all the details and just give them the nuts and bolts. Look, our Office 365 team recommends that you do these 4 things, and it's going to get you to a 66% over the year. You're going to more effectively use things. It's going to help your teams communicate more, and blah, blah, blah. How does that sound to you guys? And now you can keep focused on that human element versus talking through details and tickets and explaining what firewalls are and all that jazz. If they want to know more about like what MileIQ is, you just click on it and you got your card and your video there. So that's just a little bit of like a dot connection I wanted to show today for those of you who have not been in some of my seminars, is that the report compare tool I'm really excited about, but understand the potency of it for driving that human conversation. You're stripping out details and you're just getting down to these 2 things. So on a given report, the most important part of the report is your executive summary. The next most important part is your project roadmap. And this just kind of puts context around why this roadmap is important. So those 3 sections, if you strip out everything in your reports and just do those 3, it's really easy to do. And then for you, Spencer, for instance, the people who are using their Word documents are using them because they're familiar and they're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So your first step should be to create a report that's easy and comfortable that they want to use, and then you can start adding on complexity. Like, hey, you know, now that we do that stuff, let's go ahead and force them to do a SWOT analysis as well. So we throw it up there. Let's now start having them fill out the action items at the end of every meeting. And you can start making things more and more complex. But if you start off with just those 3 sections, you get a kick-ass QBR. Executive summary, report score compare, and project roadmap.
Yep.
Yeah, that's what we're working on, is getting that simplified starting point.
Whiteboard markers, man. Doesn't get any simpler than this. Do you know how you can tell if there's an expert in the room? They're not using PowerPoint.
There you go.
The reason for that is that your expert has a loose agenda, and they are willing to do whatever you throw at them. So you see a really good cybersecurity expert doing a presentation, and they're up there just walking the stage, and they forget to turn their slides constantly because they're getting off topic or they're fielding questions from the audience and they're thinking dynamically. A poor presenter has a strict set of rules that they follow and will work through this agenda, whether it's rain, snow, sleet. If there's a fire on stage, they're going to get to the end of that presentation. They're going to fill those 60 minutes as efficiently as humanly possible, because they don't know what else. They would die if somebody asked them a question on the stage. Because what if they freeze up? What if they don't know the answer? So that's when you get those real good experts on stage. They're just up there and they will just flow with the audience. That's how you do a good QBR as well. You have a good framework. You have a framework to make sure that everybody stays on task, so you don't spend the whole time talking about tickets. But you want to open it up for what is it that matters most to them and how can you solve those problems. Those are the main things I want to cover today, is like workshops and this quick little, like, everybody needs to know this tip. So any other questions today? Skip, Michael, Spencer, other Mike?
No?
I'm good.
All good here.
All right. So in conclusion, I will send out probably in the VEP weekly email on Tuesday what the official schedule is for March on master classes, and I will try to include a skill building and a more operational master class. Maybe there'll be 4 total. So maybe Skip will come up with some too.
We have another, we've been doing a TSA. I've broken mine down into 3 sections. So we'll be wrapping that up next week. And then we're launching another one in a later time zone. So if that works out for you, if you're a little more westward, you can grab that one and see where it goes.
And those are really, really valuable because he's actually walking your team or one of your team members through how to make a technical stack audit from beginning to end. So
Yeah, I'd like to see that.
yeah, so sign up for that webinar or that masterclass. It's pretty good. You'll end. The goal is to end up with a TSA at the end, right, Skip?
Yes, absolutely.
So you will have a technical stack audit. So it's a good one for if you have an engineer who wants to audit more, or maybe somebody who wants to step up. Maybe they're not completely a VCIO yet. They just want to know how to do this stuff. This is a great gap fill for them. Or for a VCIO who wants to make a technical stack audit to give to their technical teams, this is a great spot for them as well. All right, guys, with that, I will let you all go, and Skip and I can get to working on the podcast here pretty soon.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
All right, you guys have a great week.
Thanks a lot. You too.
Take care.